Hi everybody, I hope you are well. It is, what's the date today? The 6th of September. My God, this week has felt autumnal here in England, or at least the part of England I am. Lots of jumpers and such been wearing this week, very different from obviously about a month ago when we were like 34 degrees. So it's been quite interesting this week. I've been curling up on the sofa under a blanket with a hot cup of tea and such each night, and I'm like, what time of year is it? Because this is very strange. But anyway, what else have I been up to? Same old, really. But last weekend I got to spend some time with my sister. First time I've seen her this year, which was absolutely wonderful. And I got to see my niece and nephew and my brother-in-law as well. My niece and nephew have grown so much over this year. It is crazy. But me and my sister got to plan a load of stuff that we want to do together and videos we want to make together when she's able to stay overnight here, and we are both really excited. So we've got lots and lots of stuff planned for you guys, but we can't film it obviously until this whole COVID thing well, I was going to say resolves, but then we don't know when that's going to happen. But when summer happens and she's able to stay, we're going to be filming, and we're very excited. And also it's 9 days today, we're in single figures until Troubled Blood is released. I am so super excited. I'm really hoping that they deliver it in the morning. I don't want to have the book today off work for nothing, but we'll just have to see. So yeah, I'm counting down the days. I'm watching Lethal White, which is on BBC at the moment, which is absolutely fabulous, and listening to more ghost stories because I'm feeling very autumnal this week. So yeah, that's kind of where my brain has been at this week. But anyway, enough about that. I'm here to talk about the book I have been reading, which is Sophia, Princess Suffragette Revolutionary by Anita Anand. I got this, it was 2016 Literature Festival, because this was published in 2015, but the paperback had just been released, and Anita was there to promote the book. And I didn't know anything about Sophia before that event. I didn't know anything about Anita either. I just I saw the description in the Literature Festival brochure, and I thought, oh, why not give this a go? And I really enjoyed the event, so much so I went and bought the book. And Anita was really lovely, listening to her talk about her experience of getting to know Sophia. Now, Anita is a journalist and a broadcaster, but she'd not written a book before. So this is her first book. I'm just trying to find a picture that inspired her to write this book. But yeah, this is her first book. Just found it. And she had no intention to write a book. It wasn't something that she had planned and such. And actually, since writing this book, publishing this book, she's only written one other thing. It was a co-written a book with somebody else whose name I can't remember right now. But she hasn't published anything else since. So I kind of feel like this is like a one-off gem sort of thing. But if she does write anything else, it would be interesting to read it. And what it was is that she came across, she was looking at suffragette stuff. I can't remember if she said it was to do with a journalistic piece she was doing, or if it was just a general interest. And she noticed that all of the women were white women until she came across this picture. You see there? And she was taken aback, because it was the first woman of colour who she had seen in any footage, any pictures, anywhere. And she was really taken aback by this woman, and she went, I want to research her. And the process of her research became this book. And the woman pictured was a woman called Sophia Dulep Singh. I need to, with the way with her name, I feel like I always get her middle name and her surname the wrong way round when I've said her name out loud. So like, if I look at it, I know that I'm getting it in the right order. So it's Sophia Dulep Singh, and she was basically an Indian princess. Her father had been kind of like dethroned and fled to England before Sophia's birth, and she was born in England. She was raised, therefore, in England as kind of an English aristocracy, and her godmother was Queen Victoria. So already she's got this very different perspective of being an Indian woman growing up in England under England royalty, but she is in Indian royalty, and her understanding of the world and the way that she saw things was very different than that of a family who were still in India. And it's very interesting with this how she absolutely she adored helping people. She devoted herself to helping people, and she very much so thus when the whole thing of women's rights, she's there on the forefront. When she only went to India twice in her life because of the whole political situation that was going on, it meant that she and the issues with her family being in exile and such to England, it was a bit of a tense situation, let's put it that way, when she went back to India. But when she got there, and when she went back to India, both visits when she went to India, because obviously she'd never stepped in Indian soil before. She did that first visit when she was in her mid to late 20s. And as soon as she got there and she saw the plight of the people and the poor and everything, she wanted to help them. Everybody who she encountered, she wanted to help. And she went through this extraordinary life, really. But I found it so interesting, the clash of cultures, and the way in which Anita has written this book is absolutely beautiful. I really appreciated that she didn't do a very academic view of Sophia. It was as if she's just sat there telling you Sophia's story, just sat in front of you talking to you. She doesn't bog you down with stuff that you don't need to know. But she's also very respectful when she comes to like the history of India politics and such, and how people found themselves in the social standing that they were in India when Sophia went for both visits. She tells you specifically what you need to know, and I appreciated that. She doesn't shy away from the bad, and she doesn't linger for a long time on the good, if you see what I mean. She's not going, oh, this woman is amazing. Yes, there was this dark thing, but I'm going to do very short and very quiet. But let's focus on the great stuff. Anita's not like that at all. And that balancing, and just as the balancing with the politics of England and the politics of India, she did absolutely wonderfully. Sophia had a very complex upbringing with a mother who was ill, who was an alcoholic, with a father who basically abandoned his wife and children to run off and have fun, and pretty much as soon as her mother died, he married again and had more children, and the complex relationship between her and her half siblings was complex. But this book, it's only 378 pages long, and I am not kidding you, the last 50 pages covers about the last 20 years of Sophia's life, because they were pleasant times where she was kind of, retired, as it were. She was having a lovely time with her pets, because she absolutely adored her animals. She was helping to raise her maid's daughter, who she took under her wing and taught and brought her up kind of like how she was brought up, teaching her how to use a knife and fork as soon as possible, and manners and ladylike, and gave her presents, and she wanted to make sure that she was safe. You know, it was so interesting. But as I said, those last 20 years were sacred to Sophia, and it kind of feels like Anita didn't want to penetrate that. She wanted Sophia to keep those moments, and that is really beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. I'm just thinking, like, comparing to Miranda Seymour's 2 books that I've just gotten through, especially the last one, Mary Shelley. Every little thing she had to write about, that she found every little reference to Mary in every single document you know about. And so for a writer to then pull back and say, no, that's sacred time, that's Sophia's time, I don't want to break that, it's not my place, that was wonderful. So thank you, Anita, for doing that. I really appreciate that. I want to give you an idea of Sophia's character. I didn't do any I didn't do a reading in the last review because I was ranting too much. But there are a couple of bits that I wanted to read to you to give you an idea of Sophia, the hardships and the way in which society viewed her. So here's how they viewed her when she was probably about 17, 18. So soon Sophia became the poster girl of growing an evangelical cycling movement. She was photographed with her Columbia 41 in Richmond Park and in Battersea, where the most fashionable wheel people, as they were referred to, tended to congregate. Publications such as The Sketch featured photographs of her posing stiffly but proudly with her bicycle, declaring that she was very fond of the outdoor life and simple amusements which are felt to be the birthright of every happy, healthy girl, be she a princess or a peasant. The article went on to describe Sophia as a first-rate cyclist. A publication called Wheel Women the Lady Cyclist regaled its readers with reports of famous devotees of the wheel. Sophia features in its pages, as did the writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was described as a good friend of the wheel. He says, "When spirits are low, when the days become dark, when work becomes monotonous, when hope seems hardly worth having, just mount a bicycle and go for a spin around the road, without thought of anything but the ride you are taking. I can only speak words of praise for the bicycle." The magazine added as a postscript, "Perhaps one of these days a famous storyteller will give us a modern romance on the road with a wheel woman for a heroine." Sophia was now as passionate about bicycles as she was once about her pony at Elvedon. Elvedon is where she lived. Cycling afforded her the life that she cherished, fresh air and exercise, but also a sense of solitude and freedom. Her new craze caused deep suspicion among the so-called non-wheel people, whose objections were due in large part to the unchaperoned liberty that cycling afforded impressionable young women. The thought of hot, sweaty females roaming freely across the fields of England was abhorrent to many. Influenced by sophisticated friends, Sophia also took up smoking in her 20s, a habit both Catherine and Bamber deplored. Catherine and Bamber are her sisters, but one which Sophia embraced with considerable dedication. Predictably, the princess's taste in tobacco was expensive and exotic. Apart from the regular brands widely available in England, Sophia ordered large batches of specialty cigarettes straight from the manufacturers. Isherwood Brothers in Cairo, the Yenchi leaf, I hope I'm saying that right, of Isherwood number 5s had a resinous quality and gave off a sweet perfume which drove Catherine to distraction whenever she visited Faraday. It was not long before she was hopelessly addicted. Sophia seemed forever cloaked in the smell of Turkish tobacco and verbena-scented talcum powder. In 1900, Sophia placed an order of 800 of Isherwood's finest cigarettes spread across a period of 8 months. By 1903, her order would swell to 600 cigarettes in 1 month alone. So already you get this feeling that she's very rebellious, that she wants to take charge of her destiny at a very young age. Even though she was born into wealth, because of her situation, she didn't have that great of an education. Victoria very much wanted to make sure she was a fine lady, and so wanted to teach her things about manners and such, but her education then fell short. But you kind of understand, because at that time, even a woman of wealth probably got very little education anyway. So she really was introduced in the British way of a woman's society was to be brought up. But they noticed about how her handwriting to the very end of her life was not the best. And there's a brilliant bit of handwriting where she refused to take part in the 1911 census, and there is Sophia's handwriting in all of its glory. And she says, "No vote, no census. As women do not count, they refuse to be counted, and I have conscientious objection to filling out this form. Signed, Sophia." I love that. But because she had such a large family, she had some very sad things happen. And when I read this, I was really taken aback. So she is 12 years old at this point, and it's the first week of September in 1887. So in Folkestone, during the first week of September 1887, Sophia began to feel unwell. At first, the symptoms were fairly mild: a slightly raised temperature, an intermittent cough, a general malaise. The sea of air of the Oliphants' home ought to have given the young girl rosy cheeks and rude health. Yet she was pale, exhausted, and suffering constantly from throbbing headaches. Her joints ached, her stomach was upset and sore. The princess's condition deteriorated rapidly, and by the 17th of September, Sophia was diagnosed as being in a full grip of typhoid fever, the illness which had killed Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, some 26 years before. Sophia drifted in and out of delirium, passing from periods of calm exhaustion to serious agitation numerous times a day. Tender rose-coloured spots appeared on her chest and abdomen, and she was finding it difficult to swallow or keep down water. Slowly, she lost awareness of her surroundings as she battled dehydration. When the news of her goddaughter's illness reached the Queen, she sent her own physician, Dr. William Gull. It was a generous gesture, but a futile one, since by the time the doctor reached Folkestone, events had already taken a tragic, if unexpected, turn. On the 17th of September, Maharani Bamba, so that's her Sophia's mother, distraught and weeping, stayed by her daughter's bedside all night, praying for her fever to break. As Sophia drifted in and out of consciousness, her mother chose to dismiss all other servants and tend her alone, just as she did when Sophia was a baby. It was a long and frightening night, during which it often seemed as if the child might die. There is no record of who came into Sophia's bedroom first the next morning, although the Queen received a comprehensive report of the scene that was discovered. Sophia, whose breathing had been so laboured the night before, was sleeping peacefully, her fever having broken at some point in the night. But on the floor by her bed lay her mother, cold and dead. Sometime during her long vigil, the Maharani Bamba had collapsed and slipped into a coma. She'd stopped breathing just before dawn. Dr. Gull reported the Maharani had suffered a comprehensive renal failure brought on by an acute case of diabetes, exacerbated by her drinking and the stress of her daughter's illness. I could not believe that when I read that. That is, for a 12-year-old girl who has been abandoned by her father, who has watched her mother slip into ill health, tackling diabetes and alcoholism, to then fall ill and wake up to find out that her mother is dead. That is, wow, for her to deal with. And yeah, not long after, there would be others to add to the family grave site. And before that, her little brother had died as well. So I kind of feel like that's kind of what she'd learned to be strong when she lost her favorite baby brother, when she lost her mother, when her father left, when other situations happened. I think that's how she got her feisty character, and the fact that the woman who was her support network, her godmother, was a queen on a throne by herself. And she saw such strength and power in that. And I really feel that is what really drew her to the cause, the plight for women. And I really did like that. There is, a really interesting thing about how it says, before her death, when asking to contribute to her entry in the Woman's Who's Who, Sophia Dunlop-Singh was one of the briefest in the book. Under interest, she wrote just one line: the advancement of women. I felt Sophia throughout all of this. I was so drawn to her, and I just look at her and I smile for what she did. She went through some crazy shit, let's put it that way, but for what she did, for fighting for women's rights, for fighting for the poor, for being this beautiful, rebellious spirit in a time when women had their proper place. It was a beautiful book to read, absolutely wonderful read, and I'm really upset that we don't really know any. Sophia is not a woman of prominence in like documentaries and stuff like this. It's so sad, but I learned some stuff about Indian history as well this week, which I really like. I got to know her. I like that I got to know her. I like to got to know Indian history. I like that I got to see a different side of Victorian going into Edwardian life, and that was great, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So, would I read this book again? Yeah, I think I would. I really enjoyed it. It was a biography that was slightly different than other biographies, especially that I've written not written. Yeah, I wish I have read of late. And Anita did a stellar job. Would I read any more of Anita's work? Yes, I would. If she publishes more books, I'd definitely love to. But if this is just a one-off gem, I am really glad that I read it. Yeah, she's a really good writer, is Anita. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I definitely would. I think my sister might quite like this. I might have to recommend that to her. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on Sophia. As I said, there aren't really like documentaries or anything about her, so I can't recommend anything to you apart from read this book. Look at this. Oh, I have to share this one picture though. I just looked at it and I was like, wow, she was stunning. A very, very rare picture of her in Indian dress, because she, having grown up in England, she preferred Western clothes and stuff, so for her to appear in a sari is actually very rare. And look at that, wasn't she a beauty? Absolutely stunning. I don't know what age she is there. Oh, it's circa 1900, so what, she's about 25, 26 years old there. Absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, I've lost track of what I was saying now. Yeah, there aren't any documentaries and such that I can recommend, but grab this book if you're interested. Give it a go. As I said, Anita wrote it beautifully, and it's a bit different than other biographies. But yeah, see what you think. So those are my thoughts on Sophia. I'm going to be back. I'm hoping again that it's going to be only a week read, which is Catherine Swyford by Alison Weir. You know I love Alison Weir, so I'm probably going to breeze through this because I know the way that she writes and all that lot. And in 9 days, it's the new Cormoran Strike book. And next week I'll also announce the next books that I'm reading after Troubled Blood, because obviously I'm going to pick that up right after I finish this one. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed this, and have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a comment in the comments box below, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you, let you decide, and I'll be back with my thoughts on Catherine Swyford. Alright guys, bye.